I mean, if you were going to go for a walk,
Yeah, I mean, here's an article, turn it into a compelling 15-minute podcast I can listen to on the go. Is like there is nothing else that's like that.
We're
And that's
live.
not and it's
okay.
not taking over for
All right, we're live. Hey, everybody.
Hey!
Hey, we're live in the new studio in Austin. Yes, Lon is here live.
I made it to Austin.
Collared shirt.
Right?
Getting there.
I brought two collared shirts with me to
That's all right. I'm Brooks Brothering you up.
Austin.
I just bought Lon a Brooks Brothers blazer.
Yeah.
It's going to be very nice. You're going to have the classic with the gold buttons. Oh,
Oh,
can't wait.
Brooks Brothers. That's my first time to Brooks Brothers. I usually like Men's Warehouse would be where I would go.
I'm going to suggest you don't shop at a warehouse.
That guy was guaranteed that I'm gonna like the way I look.
Really?
That's his personal. That's the Men's
If you
Warehouse
have to
side.
make that guarantee,
There's
there's a problem.
You see those commercials, like you're gonna like the way I look. I guarantee it.
All right. 3, 2. All right, everybody. Welcome back to This Week in Startups. I'm Jason Calacanis. He's Lon Harris. And with us from Providence, Rhode Island, our boy Alex Wilhelm. We have a huge docket today.
Oh my God.
I want to just get right to work. We got some news. Then I want to do some tips from the trenches.
Yeah.
We've got a really good segment we're starting today. Tips from the trenches. We're going to talk about how people get their first customer.
Right.
This is super important. Getting your first customer, hardest customer. So we'll get into that. And then we're going to have an office hours with people from our portfolio.
Yeah. Two different offices.
Oh, we're going to try to do 2 today. Well, that's a lot.
Am I correct or no? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're correct. We got 2. They're perfect.
Okay. Alex, what's in the news?
All right, Jason. To start off today, I have a story that I think you are going to absolutely love. Over from Palantir, a new fellowship program that's going to replace some children going to college, at least temporarily. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the image here and read it to everybody. But if you have been a fan of the Teal Fellowship, you can consider this to be an echo or a reprise. Here is what Palantir says. College is broken. Admissions are based on flawed criteria. Meritocracy and excellence are no longer the pursuits of educational institutions, and chaos has ensued on university campuses. Starting today, Palantir is launching a fall fellowship for the best and brightest. Based solely on merit and academic excellence, students will be invited for interviews, and then later on, select applicants will receive an internship offer. And then if they complete that, they may be offered a full-time role at the company. Jason, there's some rules to this. You have to have an SAT score of 1460 or an ACT of 33 plus.
Pretty big.
Pretty high numbers, but this I think, fit into the Gen Bet thing we've been talking about for a long time, taking a wager on a non-traditional path.
So this is skip college. Don't go 250K into debt.
Right.
And I was talking to somebody, they said college, private schools are now getting closer to 100,000 than they are 50.
Yeah.
All in. And so maybe really the bogey is 400,000. Obviously, state school, city college, you're down at 10 to 50K a year. So maybe you get out of it with housing. It depends on the region you're in for 25 to, I don't know, 75.
Yeah.
a year.
I went to grad school at USC, my alma mater. It's now 73,000 a year annual tuition to USC.
USC. That's a state school.
Well, no, it's a private school.
USC is private.
Yeah, UCLA
is
the public school. UCs are public. USC is private. 73,000 a year.
I think Tufts is 100, and you can spend 70K.
Is that where you went?
No, I went to University of Chicago, which is, I don't know, 90. But I mean, you can spend 70K on like 6th grade now. So education costs have gotten so nuts. Yeah. Something had to break eventually. So yes. I'm not shocked to see this model. This is definitely, I think, Jason, too niche, too high end, too selective to be called a trend. But I think we're going to see other companies do this, because why not grab the smartest folks right out of high school, train them on the job, and then just keep them?
I think the only thing I don't like about this is that they pay you. I think parents should pay $5,000 a month to send their kids to this for 10 months.
To send their kids to
I am literally not joking.
Yeah.
I think they should lower the SAT requirement to 1,200. In other words, you're still way above average.
Right.
I think the average is probably 900 or something like that. Somebody can look
around 1,000 on a 1,600 point scale. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would put it at 1,200. So you got to be 20% better. And I would, you pay $5,000 a month, you pay $50,000 a year, $25,000 a year, and then you could give scholarships as well. Putting all that aside, if a child of mine came to me and said, "Here's my options: go 300,000 into debt, spend this number of years on a campus, or go to Palantir," I would be and get paid. Oh my God! this is a no-brainer. It is niche. I hope we see more of these. In fact, we have one of these here at our venture firm. We weren't finding, Alex, the sort of work ethic that we wanted to see in a finance company. In a finance company, when you go to Wall Street, working 50, 60, 70 hours a week is table stakes. Like the idea of coming in on a Saturday or Sunday and putting in 8 hours or 4 hours over the weekend to catch up, to compete against people, not a big deal. The idea of, getting in at 8, 9, 10 a.m. and working until dinner time and ordering dinner at 8 or 9 o'clock and then going home and sleeping and not watching Netflix all night, that was not considered a big deal in the finance space. But in venture, they were hiring kids out of Ivy League schools only, exclusively.
Right.
You had to go to Stanford. You had to have an MBA. And they got paid incredibly high salaries because those schools are incredibly expensive. And they didn't have a work ethic. So they when I told folks, hey, I want you to do 5 meetings, 6 meetings a day with founders for 20 minutes, write coverage for an hour, it's a 10-hour day, whatever it is. People looked at me like I was crazy. They were like, this is too much work. I'm like, I do twice that amount of work.
Right.
So we started our own program. We call it the RAP program now, Researcher, Analyst, Associate, Principal. Those are the 4 levels. You start out, very similar salaries to these, in fact, almost exactly. And you go 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, whatever, and you can have a job in venture. And over 5, 6, 7 years, we are getting people to really learn the craft of venture as I see it. Not as, Stanford Business School or Wharton sees it. Those are all fine, but I'm trying to do something very early stage, more gritty, closer. It's not as pretty, but it's a lot more gritty, closer to the actual experience that founders go through.
Right.
Not the ivory tower experience. This is great. Everybody should be doing this. And we should see every company offer something similar to this.
I think that's the key is like, it is a little bit of a prisoner's dilemma sort of thing. Like if you go to Palantir instead of college, you're counting on, your next job and the next job after that. Those companies will have a similar sort of philosophy of like, no degree is okay because you've got this incredible.
Yeah, you have a Palantir degree.
Right. So it's like you kind of need the whole industry to convert to this way of thinking. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of like people in their late 20s, early 30s who have trouble moving to their next gig because they don't have that bachelor's degree.
You buy that? You buy that, Alex? Or if you work at Palantir for 8 years, would you be easily employable if you made it 8 years at Palantir?
I think you'd be incredibly easily employable after 8 years. But I think Lon's probably more talking about the kids that might apply for this and get in, but then not get the full-time job offer. Are you then stuck? Here's my thought.
Yeah.
Take a 9-month gap year and go to college the next year, and you'll have Palantir on your resume. So to me, that risk isn't quite so large, but I think we're looking at this in too narrow of a way. I think instead of having VC firms hire associates with this type of model or a couple of companies, VC firms should grab the most intelligent high school students and turn them into founders more quickly and just save a lot of time, just short circuit the whole process and get them into their flow early. Kind of like Founder University, Jason, but for 19-year-olds.
Well, funny you say that. Founder University, we now have high school kids applying and coming. So it's actually what you predicted there and what you're saying is actually the game on the field. We have many young kids coming in, going to the program. We had a kid who was under 16 or 17, and my team came to me a couple of years ago and was like, hey, can we invest in a 15-year-old? I'm like, can a 15-year-old start a company in Delaware? I don't think so. And we had to go through this whole rigmarole. And I just told somebody who works for me, I was like, Heidi, call the parents.
Yeah.
Do a Zoom with the parents. Are the parents on board? If the parents are on board, we'll do it. And then I literally said, make a permission slip. And they said, so do I call our law firm? I said, no. Go on the internet, find a permission slip, and cross out going to Great Adventure and put working at I go to Founder University. Who cares? This is awesome. What a great trend. And this shows when you squeeze too hard, when your offering sucks, people will find another way. More of this. Full on F the industrial academic certification industry.
Right. And it's not to I loved going to college. I think college is super valuable for some kinds of people and for certain kinds of jobs. And look, nobody's saying nobody should go to universities or whatever, but the idea that everybody needs to go to university, no matter what you want to do with your life is
mistake.
it's silly. It just doesn't, that's not what colleges and universities were designed to do ever.
And the deal sucks.
And it's not a good deal unless you want to go, if you want to be a professor, that's a perfect place for you. If you want to,
professor make?
but that's what I mean. Like if you want to do a job
sense.
that you need a scholarly or academic background, like if you want to be a scientist or a researcher, a historian, you need that kind of background. But you know, if you want
what's
to
next
start
on the docket? Let's keep moving here. This is great. I like the first story. How many? By the way, give me a minute count on the stories to the team in the so per story, right? So okay, there we go. So 7 minutes we did, 10 minutes on Palantir. Let's keep moving. We'll try to keep the pace going. What else is in the news? I saw there's something going on with Digg.
Yes,
Ken Rose and Alex Ohanian.
Yeah, I got an email from Digg inviting me to join a new thing called the Groundbreakers program. Jason, we talked about the return of Digg. I think you were actually kind of an MC for the Digg Nation rollout event. Well, the good news for folks who want Digg to come back and save the internet is that it's making progress. So I went ahead and clicked on the link, Jason, and then guess what? They demanded that I give them $5. Okay. And I thought to myself, actually, I love that because it means that everyone who shows up is going to be, I mean, in the smallest sense, skin in the game, but like we're opting in with a couple of bucks. So I think that's a good test.
Yes.
And when I checked on they're using a company called Circle to have kind of a social backend as they test new ideas. There were already 17,000 people who had signed up and paid, I presume, the $5, up from 3K the morning before. So quite a lot of momentum there for access to a kind of a crappy Discord is kind of what it currently is. But if you did sign up, check your email. You might have an invite. And Jason, do you think that Kevin would mind if we showed off a screenshot of what Digg might look like? Okay.
Sure. Why not?
So
and this is circle.so. Circle.so is the platform?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Just so you know, we love circle.so. That's the community platform we use for Founder University. And so what's really nice about that product, I just want to give him a shout out since you dissed him a bit, is it's actually really good if you're doing educational content, forums. It's kind of all in one product. And what I liked about it was the pricing. They just charge you like a certain amount, like I think it's enterprise is $300 a month or something. So for less than $5,000 a year, I can have, I think, an unlimited number of people in the community, whereas other communities wanted us to charge per person, which became real problematic with Slack. So we use Slack right now for our founders at launch, but we don't get the archive and we have all these issues with it because it's expensive. And so we might move off of that and go to Circle for that. But show some of the show us what they're thinking.
Yeah, I haven't gotten invited yet, so
sorry to the Circle team. Maybe the Digg instance isn't quite so fully fleshed out. Anyways, this is the image that we have. This is clearly a mock-up of sorts. But Jason, as you can kind of imagine, there's a leaderboard, there's individual people, communities, one focused on Digg Nation. And this is a return of the classic Digg button. Makes me so happy. I don't know exactly what Digg's going to look like when it's done, but I guarantee you this, I'm going to be a day one, minute one user. And I love to see some internet OGs trying to bring back some of the old joy of the pre-algorithm internet. I think we need it, Jason.
Yeah, it's fantastic. If you look at the design, it's a little bit Notion-esque, a little superhuman-esque in terms of cleanliness and crispness, combined with the classic Digg logo and the classic Digg button. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Love it. And I love the idea of a $5 gate because what that does is you're going to keep the trolls out. Yes. Trolls almost universally do not want to take out their wallet for two reasons. One, they're so not committed to their trolling that even $5 is not worth it. And they don't want to reveal who they really are.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because once you put your credit card in, you generally know who you are. I suppose they could get burner cards. I don't know how that works. But you could buy like a burner card, maybe. Like, can you buy a Visa card and then go sign up with like Joe Blow on it?
I think gift cards are how you would do
gift
that.
Cards,
but not every service accepts those for this exact reason.
Got it. Right. Okay, so putting all that aside, all obvious stuff, I know this because I went to a paid community for my replies on X, formerly known as Twitter, just because, it's just so much trolling. And I think there are 3 people who troll me on it, and I allow them to troll me because they're giving $3 a month to charity. So there it is. But this is a great way. If they are charging $5 and they have 15,000 paid signups already, then they'll clearly get to 50,000. If they get to 50,000 and it's $5 a month, that would be $3 million a year in revenue.
Yeah.
Out of the gate, that's going to pay for 10 developers and 5 other, business people, whatever, to work on it. It's all good.
I think it's really smart because Digg sort of lives and dies by the quality of the community. That's the value add. Like you can go anywhere and it's like, here's curated news, here's aggregated, whatever. But it's like the comments are going to be interesting. It's a community vibe. I mean, we saw it at the Digg Nation Live event at South by, like passionate people who love Digg and love that show and we're excited to be together. So yeah, putting that price tier on it, you guarantee that the people are going to be there, want to be there.
You know why Reddit hasn't done this? We have our This Week in Startups Reddit that we've been growing. Go ahead and join.
GWI Startups, folks.
And then we have the all-in-one, and we started an official all-in-one. And the problem with that is like it's just too many anonymous accounts.
Yeah.
And it's just too political. Obviously, the show has been taken over by politics, unfortunately. It is what it is. The challenge is
there's our Reddit.
There's our Reddit, which is fantastic, and we want you to join it. We have 209 members. We're in the top 41%. Let's grow it. We got to email everybody to go join. Maybe do some dedicated content there would help. All-ins is crazy, and if all-ins was $5 to join or $10 to join, why doesn't Reddit have that as a feature so that we could just at least get rid of all the drive-bys? And I'm thinking we should shut the all-in one down because there's no upside to it for us. We might as well just shut it down.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the diehards are on the second the
second or third.
The secret all-in.
No, there's like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, there's a few.
They're just brutal. I know because they banned me from it. All right, let's keep moving through the docket here. What's next?
All right, couple of startups out there that people might have heard of. One is Ilya's Safe Superintelligence. Of course, Ilya. Jason, do you recall how to pronounce his last name? Sutskever.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Sure.
Sutskever.
I just call him Ilya. Anyways, OpenAI co-founder building safe superintelligence. The big news in this company, we're not quite sure what they're building yet, what attack, vector they're taking on AI, but they have partnered up with Google to use their TPUs, tensor processing units. And Google also announced a new TPU this week. That's very powerful. So good to see a frontier AI model company get essentially a big pat on the back from one of the biggest technology companies in the world. And also in the realm of former OpenAI folks going out and building rival AI companies. Mira Murati, the former OpenAI CTO, famous for not wanting to answer the question of what did you train Sora on? Was it YouTube? And then not answering. Her company, Thinking Machines Lab, is not going to raise, according to BI, $1 billion at a $9 billion valuation. That was too small. Instead, Jason, how about $2 billion at a possibly $10 billion plus valuation? My question to you both is this. Is the AI market so large that there's enough room for all of these companies, or are we seeing VCs just keep swinging? Because I don't know the answer.
The prize is huge, and we should have pulled up the famous photo of her. I'll copy it here and I'll put it into. Where do I put it? Because I don't have Slack now. Okay, I'll put it here. I'll put it into Twist Taping. This is the famous photo you're looking at that became a meme, where she was just like, I don't know if we actually.
Oh yeah, did we
train on YouTube? I can tell you if you make that face at the poker table when I ask you if you flop the set, you do not have a set.
Yeah, this is the face that I make.
Maybe you do.
Calls my river bluff. Not my happiest moment.
Yeah. So big prizes if you win. Little downside because these are extremely talented people. This is the 0.1% of thinkers and doers in AI.
Right.
And they're going to bring together, 100 AI engineers. They're going to start building. And then those 100 are worth $5-10 million each in an acquisition. And that it used to be, you could basically say if your startup had 20 engineers, you got bought in an acqui-hire, Google, Facebook would give you 20 million just to get the engineers in a functional team in there to work on a project because they could build a project with that group that worked together really well. A serial team is so valuable. Why is a serial team so valuable? Well, you finish each other's sentences. You've worked together before, like you and I have. Alex, you and I worked together before on podcasts, and you hit the ground running.
Yes.
And you make better products quicker. You have trust. You know everybody's roles, the strengths, the weaknesses. And that's why this diaspora is easily fundable by VCs. You remove an entire category of, you remove an entire dependency, which is, will this team gel?
Right.
Are these leaders going to be able to assemble a team? Iron Man or Thor or Captain America go out and they want to start a new super team. You know, they're going to put a super team together.
Right.
It's not going to be a problem. You take any 5 characters from the Marvel universe assembled, and you're going to get Alpha Flight, X-Men, whatever, and it's going to do a reasonable job.
Not the Eternals, but they're the
yeah, whatever it is, it's going to work out.
We're seeing such an interesting bifurcation in the value of talent, because kind of buttressing the story that Jason just told about how certain people that are at the top of their game and have worked together as a team before are worth lots of money. On the other hand, the information just reported that Google has, quote, cut hundreds of employees in its platforms and devices unit, which is Android software, Pixel phones, and the Chrome browser. So while we're contrasting the extreme value of these OpenAI expats, if you will, the broader technology employee base seems to be consistently downgraded in terms of what they're worth today as companies continue to keep cutting. It feels like it's always layoff season now. And I'm torn between kind of throwing my arms up and going like, okay, this is just now where we are, and still mourning the people who are impacted by this, who have mortgages and nannies and such that have to pay for that.
I'll take the latter first, Alex. Don't worry about these people getting laid off. These are the most elite workers in the world. They will get massive severance and they will land on their feet. They will start new companies. They're easily going to find work. It just may not be as delightful. It might not be as well paid. I never worry about this group of people. If they got laid off at Google, they had to be really bad. Google is known as the place excuse me, Google is known as a place where you can rest, invest, hang out on the roof. It was parodied on Silicon Valley on Hulu, where you just hang out on the roof. And I wonder if this has to do with the chaotic environment we've seen, or if this is the new process by which people are slowly getting rid of people being replaced by AI, because the top performers are becoming 30%, 40% better each year. If the top third of your company gets 30% better a year, that gain, 30 times 30, is like a 10% gain. What do you do with that 10% gain? You give them raises of 5%, and you cut the bottom 5%. Something in that way. You spread that efficiency around. That's good for business. It might be painful. You can have a big bleeding heart about it and feel bad for people. Totally fine. I'm not worried about it. I would be more worried about Google's ability to compete. When you cut the bottom 5% in any organization, the organization 99% of the time is higher functioning.
Jason, you just requested the Eric Schmidt clip discussing, I think, the Google work-life balance, people don't want to work that much thing. That entire video was yoinked off the internet when he apologized.
Yeah, but the clip exists. It definitely exists out there. That clip is all over social media, even though it was pulled. For background, I had asked to pull this clip of Eric Schmidt. He was at Stanford, Lon, and he, Alex finds the actual one. He gave a talk at Stanford. It got shared. It then subsequently got pulled down because it was spicy. And the spiciest thing he said was of why Google was losing was because Google decided that nobody had to come to work anymore and everybody could work from home indefinitely. And once that started going viral, they pulled it. It was a moment of candor for him. I don't know if he knew he was being it was going to be shared or not, but that's the truth. That's the other basic truth that's going on here. The entire industry is trying to get rid of low performers, reward the high performers, and get people back to an office to do work together. Here I am. 2 days this week I've been in the office, Wednesday and Friday. Next week I'll be here Monday, Wednesday, maybe Friday. I may have a trip to go for Easter. Point is, even I, who does not need to work another day of my life, I'm enjoying being in an office. I love seeing you guys. I love iterating. Our studio is getting better. The shots are getting better. My advice to everybody who is, really loving working at home is, to the extent you can, go to the office a couple of days a week and see how that feels. You might really like it.
Yeah. I think I have found the clip here, Jason. Let's go ahead and give this a listen. I'm going to have to full screen. Let's go.
Decided that work-life balance and going home early and working from home was more important than winning. And the reason startups work is because the people work like hell. And I'm sorry to be so blunt, but the fact of the matter is if you all leave the university and go found a company, you're not going to let people work from home and only come in 1 day a week. If you want, Google decided that work-life balance.
So this clip, I mean, have you seen this clip before?
Yeah, I've seen this before.
Yeah, I mean, uncomfortable truth. But this is the reason why I love startups. If you're a startup and you bring 5 people to an office and you put in 50, 60, 70 hours a week, and oh my God, you stay late one night and order pizza, or you come in on the weekend to get a leg up on Google or Facebook or Tesla or Uber, whoever you're competing against, the dream is still alive. Big companies get lazy and fat and inefficient, and people become entitled. That's the entire reason startups can win, is that we have this vibrant ecosystem, and it is what it is. He got in a lot of trouble for that. I think he rubbed people the wrong way.
Yeah, he ended up apologizing and said he misstated the culture at Google in this clip. So
he described Google as accurately as anybody in the history of that firm has. There is a reason why Silicon Valley, a comedy show by Mike Judge, who did Idiocracy, who is a brilliant observer of culture, lampooned the work ethic of Google, is because they were known strategically for allowing people to rest and vest.
Yeah. And a former developer, Mike Judge.
He was?
Yeah, he's a computer programmer. That's Office Space. Office Space was inspired by his early days working at tech companies before he created Beavis and Butthead.
Another classic. I mean, I would go to a Mike Judge film festival.
He's great. Yeah.
I would pay $100 for a ticket to him interrupting and pausing each of these films and talking over them and giving us anecdotes. Can you imagine sitting there?
He was a mechanical engineer by trade, Mike Judge.
Who knew?
Yeah,
all right, let's keep going here. What else do we got in the news? This is good. I like this. I like the pace.
Something that I'm pretty excited about, Jason. You and I have talked about Serve Robotics on the show any number of times. Well, there's another company out there called Coco, and one of your favorite companies, DoorDash, is teaming up with Coco and their little delivery bots to bring food around LA and Chicago. Now, DoorDash has previously worked with Coco in Helsinki via its Wolt, I believe, sub-brand that they own. But in this case, we're seeing really just more robotic transportation, more self-driving, albeit in a small sense. And I really do think that we have been right to be bullish on this for a long time, though I'm curious why we're still seeing Coco and Serve Robotics remain independent when they really do appear to be a feature in a food delivery platform, if you will. But they're still independent, they're still landing deals. But I just want to see Uber Eats and DoorDash snap up these companies and go to real war versus these kind of tiny little partnerships. Like, to me, it feels timid when they should be being more aggressive.
Yeah, you can play the video while I talk over it. These, I believe, are going to be a sleeper hit. Why? The majority of deliveries, for Uber Eats, for DoorDash, occur in cities. And once people get used to these things zipping around, they are going to embrace them in a major way. They're doing them in, I think, what they call the infill area. So between a dense city and then the suburbs is infill.
Right.
So this would be, I guess, an area might be like Santa Monica.
Hollywood has these as well.
And Hollywood has them.
It's the same company. Their previous model is called Samo Serve Robotics, and they're all over LA to the point that John Mulaney has integrated them into his LA chat show now, because you see them everywhere around Hollywood when you're walking around.
Here's the great news about these. If you have sidewalks and this thing's going down the street, the chances of it hitting anybody are extremely low.
Yes.
The chances of it hitting somebody and doing damage are minuscule. They're going, I think the max they can go is about 10 miles an hour. Somebody please check. But I think that's about it. So they would be like a runner going, a sprinting person. And I don't even think they go sprinting level. They're probably
they go
jogging.
pretty slow, and they're very aware of people. So if there's a person walking near them, they just stop.
They stop and they let you pass because it's a burrito. It's not like it's going to go terrible. In fact, the burritos get better.
They're very focused on not disturbing pedestrians. That's obviously a big priority.
Now,
all right. So in LA,
go ahead.
5 miles an hour on the sidewalks and 15 miles per hour on shoulders of roadways and on roads, according to LA in 2021.
Okay, perfect. Which is a 12-minute mile, which is a brisk walk. It's not even a run. It might be like the slowest version of jogging you can do. So these are going to absolutely change everything. And the reason they're going to change everything is because in New York City, the bike culture of electric bikes is so goddamn dangerous.
Yeah.
I was in New York, and I'm a New Yorker. I know how to cross the street. I mean, I could literally cross Broadway at 42nd Street, catty corner.
Sure.
No problem. I could do it at 1 a.m. I could do it at 8 a.m. and nobody would have to slow down. I'm like Frogger going through there. When I go there, I don't even try. I was staying 5 feet back from the curb with my daughter because of electric bikes.
Yeah.
They have the limiters taken off of them. So I have a couple of electric bikes, and I saw online you can undo the limiter and go up to like 35 miles an hour. These guys have them going 50 miles an hour.
That's crazy.
And it is they're driving motorcycles on the streets. They're eating the cats and the dogs.
They're eating the cats.
I'm getting a little worked up here. You could get killed.
Oh, yeah.
And people are getting seriously hurt. This is like Strava lunatics in San Francisco trying to do these routes where they're trying to break each other's records.
Right.
They should literally ban electric bikes that go over this amount, and they should start really enforcing that law because somebody will get killed. You can't get killed with these. To your question, Alex,
yes.
Why haven't they been bought and fully deployed?
Yes.
If there was some defensible technology here, then they would get bought. There have been like 10 of these companies. There's really, I hate to say it, not much defensibility to this. The defensibility is having 100 million, 200 million people on your app.
Right.
And having 1 million restaurants using your software. That's the defensibility, is the network. These are going to be created en masse in China. Right now, they're bespoke and created here. These things they're going to make 1 million of these a day in factories in Vietnam, China, India. And these will be the predominant delivery method along with zipline. And regulation is the reason these aren't more broadly available. As long as nobody's kid gets, a kid getting hit or a dog would make these, have a problem. But these are all watched as well. So when they have an intervention, there is somebody, and maybe you can take a look and see if you can find a heads-up display of this if you do a Google search. There are people watching these in real time, and they have a joystick or an Xbox controller. So if there is a problem, you could easily have what is Waymo called there? There's a term that Cruise and Waymo had for the guides, the Sherpas, the backup pilots, the remote monitors of these. Those remote monitors are ready to take over at any time. And so the safety record of these, I'm sure, is spectacular. I doubt there has been one person injured and taken to a hospital by these that's not like did it on purpose to get a...
I'm seeing fleet response. That's what Waymo calls their remote monitoring system.
Yeah,
That's
they don't want to call it remote monitoring.
Right,
They're very specific about this.
Yeah.
But
I have a clip. Oh, sorry, Justin.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
I have a clip here of Lily Shaw, who is a Coco pilot. That's what they call them. And here's an video of her using a Xbox controller to drive one of these Cocos, presumably at the point of needing intervention.
Yeah.
That looks like a fun video game.
Yeah, it looks cool. It's like you're driving a Mario Kart through real life.
And people play games like Euro Truck Simulator 2024. Why don't we just have people drive a Coco and get $1?
Wow. That's brilliant.
Let me also tell you something. You know how much that real world data is worth to NVIDIA and to Optimus and Tesla?
Yeah.
Like these things are seeing the real world all day long. They know that there's like 4 guys who hang out on a certain street corner, slinging whatever they're slinging, telling jokes. Maybe they're a bebop band. I don't know what they're doing on the corner. Singing.
There's a lot going on the boulevard.
There's a lot going on the boulevard.
Yeah.
These things are also going to have a secondary use, which is something bad happens in real world. These things are going to pick it up with their video.
Yeah, they've got all that 3D data. Yeah.
All this training is occurring. 10 years ago, when these things started in San Francisco, the way they started was there was somebody walking behind them with a joystick. So people were 10 feet behind him, using them like a little RV. What do they call it? Radio cars? What are
RC cars.
Yeah,
RC
RC
cars.
yeah.
Thank you, Alex. So they used them like RC cars. Then they went remote. Now they're AI with backup remote. Eventually, man, these things are gonna be able to go pretty fast in the streets, and that will be shocking to people. Imagine one of these in the roadway going 65 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour, and being able to navigate and not cause an accident or get in an accident. That's another possibility here. Great job. This is going to be the majority of deliveries by 2030.
Yeah, I hard agree with that. All right, now, Jason, we talked, I think it was on Wednesday, about how today on the show we were going to avoid politics and avoid tariffs and all that. I want to squeeze in one item here before we go into the trenches, because I think it really matters. So as the world resets and kind of gets its hands around the rapidly changing trade economy that we're dealing with, there is tension between the US and the European Union. I don't think this is a shock to anybody, but the question has been, what are the terms of engagement, and will there be a possible impact on technology companies? So here on Twist, we discussed how software, being an electronic service, generally doesn't get tariffed like a physical good, so we deemed that to be a positive thing. Now, the EU, which is currently holding back on tariffs as they try to work something out with Trump, is holding a couple of cards in its hands that do matter and could impact technology companies. And essentially, the EU has said that if trade talks go poorly, one thing they have in their holster is the possibility of adding a levy on the advertising revenues of digital services. This would directly impact companies like Meta and Alphabet, two of America's technology champions. And I think it just goes to show how nasty the trade war could get in terms of actually impacting technology firms, which we had not been concerned about. If someone wants to tell me that I'm overreacting here, I'd love that.
Where is this in the docket, by the way? I'm trying to find it.
This is
big
US
tech update.
Yeah. U.S. tech companies, EU profits at risk.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense that this would happen. And if they're going to go after Meta and Google, then I think this could take on a whole new flavor, right? If we get into services delivered, what if we take this to its logical conclusion? And if you're a lawyer and you represent a company in France, or you're a French lawyer and you're representing Apple in some court case there, are we going to put a 50% tariff on legal services? Okay, that's weird. That would, I mean, if I go to a French restaurant and they make me a baguette because I'm American, am I going to pay a tariff on that? If a French person comes here and delivers a service, it's kind of like hard to find an analogy here, because if you're delivering a service, where is the service delivered? Well, if it's delivered virtually, like you're seeing an ad over the internet, if the server is in America, but the customer's in Paris, then they see an ad on Google search, where did the revenue get generated?
Right.
I mean, this is just crazy.
We run into these problems so much because the people designing so many of these laws are from a different generation, let's say, and don't necessarily have that innate understanding like we do of how much the internet complicates every single one of these kinds of questions.
You know, Lon, not to push back on that, but I do think when it comes to understanding the minutia of the internet, the EU is actually pretty good at it. We may not always agree with what they decide with that information, but you don't end up with things like the DMA and GDPR without having done the research.
Right.
I think it's fair that they understand the nuances of it, and I think it's fair that they don't fully realize the ramifications of constraining capitalism and how capitalism finds a way. I have been a big proponent of American companies not putting certain services in Europe. Like literally, there is no reason to put German news, Australian news, or news in France into Google. They should just turn off Google News. They should not allow the news sources URLs to be pasted on Facebook, or when they do paste them, just put the raw URL. Don't put the snippet or anything. Because in the EU, they want people to pay to index them. That makes no sense. And this is what happens when people start to feel they're being treated unfairly. If you feel that the other party is treating you unfairly, or you're being, even worse, bullied, then people will take some action. That action may not seem logical in the one transaction that's occurring, but if you look at the entire ecosystem, what we're seeing this week is, and it might just be ceremonial or it could be a coincidence, but people are in Europe going and taking meetings with people in Asia. People in Asia are going and taking meetings with people in Europe, in the Middle East. They're all looking at it saying, well, if the US is not going to be a reliable partner, or I feel a little bullied. I feel like I'm being like hit with a cudgel constantly. Maybe there's somebody else who wants brie cheese in the world.
What part of do not retaliate and you will be rewarded don't they understand?
It turns out the EU has a spine and is nearly as large an economy as the US. And even more to the point, major American technology companies drive a lot of revenue from it. 23% of Meta's Q4 revenue was based in Europe. Google's about 29% in Europe and the Middle East. So it's kind of a blended bag there. Amazon is so worried about this. They have tons of posts about how much money they spend in Europe, how many people they hire. So this could be a real lever to pull, because these technology companies, CEOs, have paid to have access to Trump's ear. So if they're squealing, the president will hear it. And that could really, I think, impact negotiations. I'm disappointed to see our little sector get dragged into the trade war, Jason, but perhaps there was no way around it. This was going to come no matter what.
I mean, if you see the prequels, you'll understand. Once you start one of these things, it can escalate very quickly.
The separatists are,
all of a sudden, Count Dooku emerges.
It's a Star Wars.
Can we get a Count Dooku counter for this show? Because I feel like we say Count Dooku at least once a week. And I don't even know who that is.
He's the leader of the separatist army, okay? It's Christopher Lee.
Yes. I mean, you're literally clones are being made somewhere in the universe. Camino,
Count
anything.
Dooku.
Count Dooku,
it's that guy, the old guy. Okay.
Christopher
Lee.
Christopher is incredible. All right, let's keep moving. What do we got next on the agenda? This is a great agenda.
Should we do tips from the trenches? You got more news, Alex?
Why don't we just throw in one last tiny little note and then we'll move on. So first of all, we all know Qualtrics, the software company.
My guy Ryan Smith. He's been on the program 3 or 4 times.
Oh, lovely. I know Ryan Smith too. He's a really great guy. Owns the Utah Jazz NBA team. And also, as it turns out, this was news to me, the Utah hockey team. Didn't know they had hockey in Utah, but there you go. He is teaming up with an old friend, Ryan Sweeney from Excel, and they're building a new $1 billion fund that's going to invest in, quote, the experience economy. Think sports, things that are live. And what's fun, Jason, is that Excel is going to provide the backend, the office side of things, and they can co-invest. So I thought, lovely to see a new fund, tons of money going into this. Not exactly a sector we cover too much, but it felt like a ray of sunshine after a week of chaos.
Yeah, Ryan's great. Let's have him on the program when he's ready to talk about it. Open invitation, but let's reach out to him and tell him we'd love to talk to him and his new partner on This Week in Startups. And what you're seeing here is setting up a back office and getting your first couple of anchor LPs, even for somebody like Ryan, who's a billionaire and can easily afford to fund, some portion of this himself. That's just like chores. And to be able to abstract it all and have Excel's team do it is going to save them a year of having to hire and build that infrastructure. I know, because I built that infrastructure here at our little, $250 million under assets under management firm, 50 million a fund or so, 45 million the last fund, syndicates on top of that. So we have to build infrastructure, and it takes time. That was Sequoia's premise with Scouts. If we have a Scout program, we can empower a bunch of people to be out there doing these great deals, and they don't have to set up a venture firm. This is awesome. And if they co-invest, they get kind of a first look. So this is like a studio deal where maybe the person's on the lot, they gave them an office space, and you get to see some of the deals first. Congratulations to the team over there. Great for startups. And I do think the experience economy is underrated as an investment opportunity.
Sure.
So I would like to see more opportunities in experiences. Let's keep moving.
All right, Lon, let's go to the trenches. We have a couple of clips we want to get to.
Sure. So Jason asked us to put this new segment together. The idea is we're taking a topic. We're looking at a bunch of different thoughts and ideas about that topic from all across the web that we could find. So for today's topic, getting your first customers.
This is a topic that comes up all the time, or not at all. And when it comes up, it's great because there are so many ways to get those first customers.
Yeah.
But when it doesn't come up, that's when you really have to be concerned because it means somebody's building a product in a vacuum. They're not even thinking about customers. You should be doing customer interviews before you start building. You should be doing listening labs. You can look up a listening lab. It's basically where you present a product to a customer and you ask them to try it and they move on to the next phase. And you gently say, your friend sent you this, tell me what you're doing. But you don't direct them too much. And then there's directed listening labs. There's all kinds of modalities here. What I like about the talk we gave yesterday at Founder University, this came up because they created an exercise.
Right.
Because one of the things founders reported to us in a survey, which they didn't say, this is why surveys are really good when you're running something, is to constantly do surveying and don't worry about survey burnout. Don't worry about your customers feeling like you sent them too many surveys. They don't have to do them. They're not forced to do them. So survey early and often, and then you want to double click on the survey. In our survey, how to raise money comes up, how to hire, but also people may not vocalize it, but they did check it off of a list, how to get my first customers.
Yes.
A lot of the ways people used to do it, SEO, maybe don't work as well, or they're super competitive. But I see that Y Combinator made like a super cut of a video of 50 founders and share how they got their first customers. Maybe we play that. And
I've got a minute clip here from that. That's just an overview of a bunch of different founders telling their first customer stories.
So we made a mock-up of our dream personal finance product, made a website for it with a little wait list, and we posted it on a Reddit group. And within 24 hours, there was like close to 1,000 people that had signed up for the wait list. It really resonated with a lot of people that were having the same like financial pain points as us. We launched our closed beta and started onboarding those customers.
For us, it was a bit of a wild week in which we launched on Twitter, and suddenly a few days later, I went from 50 followers to like 10,000. We had 20,000 stars on GitHub. We had 150,000 unique visitors a day. And so we're really fortunate to have the lightning in the bottle and have all these customers come to us.
You're asking a great time. We actually got our first customer paying this morning.
How did you find that first customer?
So we launched. We shared what we were doing about 2.5 weeks ago on just our LinkedIns and shared with our friends. And a lot of people came inbound. People were really curious about what we were building here. Got a great wait list, and this customer came through that wait list, which was really exciting.
We don't really have any customers yet, but we've got like one really good advisor who sort of made some introductions to folks at a couple of the big ag tech companies. So sort of networking our way in, really.
All right. Great stuff.
A pretty good overview of a bunch of the different sort of techniques that come up producing discoverable content. We heard people talking about embedding themselves authentically within the community. So going to Hacker News, going to Reddit, going to places where potential customers already were, and then influencer marketing or PR and like get introductions through friends of friends of friends and trying to sort of zeroing in on people there. So we also found a blogger named Ali Abulata surveyed 120 different public companies and analyzed all of their go-to-market strategies and produced these two flow charts based on whether you're looking for high intent or low intent customers. And so we've got those pulled in as well. Maybe you want to talk about high intent versus low intent and what.
Sure. And we could pull this up maybe and we could take a look at it as we discuss it. So high intent, they need something right now.
Right.
They need a car, they need a bicycle, they go to the bicycle store, they search. So just take yourself through a person who has a really acute need. I need a bicycle because I'm starting my Uber Eats DoorDash job on Monday in Manhattan. So what do? That person might do a Google search. They might go to Facebook Marketplace. They might type in electric bikes and wind up on a Reddit page. They might talk to their friends. They might go to a Facebook group of DoorDashers in New York. These are small niche communities. And the way you do it is by imagining you're the person. So here in this go-to motion flow chart, you have high intent customers, no viable alternatives. So if there's no viable alternatives, you're making the product. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So there's no DoorDash in the country, so you create Zipline to bring it to people, right? There's no way to get delivery when you're far out there. Then you have a competitive space, opportunity cost. Does the competitor have lock-in? So if it was say broadband, and you live in a neighborhood that's only has Comcast, well, obviously they're locked in.
Yeah.
You have to then do something like cold outreach, as they point out here. If they don't have lock-in, well, you could fish on forums.
Yeah.
So people talking about broadband or people in the Austin area, you could say, hey, obviously we have this locked in. Oh, sorry. I just got some sound back.
Yeah, just a little feedback.
Yeah, so if they're locked in, then what you would do is, sorry, I lost my train of thought. If they're not locked in,
Like if people have options, Spectrum's available, Google Fiber's also available. In that
then
same
you have to
neighborhood.
figure out, well, how do you compete with them?
Right.
And then that's where maybe making an offer, et cetera. So this is all really a good discussion. What you heard in the previous Y Combinator company that made the landing page, landing pages are so beautiful because you can make one in a lean startup movement. So Steve Blank and Eric Ries created this methodology called lean startup. And you can pull up Steve Blank's Wikipedia page there. He's an entrepreneur and he's just really awesome. And he created this methodology along with Eric Ries. Eric Ries wrote the book, Lean Startup. And you want to create a hypothesis and run an experiment, and then you can iterate on that with subsequent product releases. So what they did was they made a landing page. They sent people to the landing page, and you find out. What's amazing today is you can create landing pages in 15 minutes that look extraordinary using AI. You can create ads that look extraordinary in 15 minutes using AI. And then you still have to do the glue of sending them out there. Talking to people and networking and cold outreach also works. So literally finding 15 CFOs in your town and writing them a short email. Hi, I'm building this for CFOs. I'm a former CFO. I wonder if you had this issue. Would love to get coffee with you, or at this link, you can see a little bit more about the product, and then if they clicked on it, right? So there's all those signals. And so we're going to catalog all of these and put it in the show notes for you to look at.
Yeah. Do you want to take a look at our last video? We got one more video.
Oh, okay. Another story.
This is from the My First Million podcast.
Oh, great
They
podcast,
made a video called How We Got Our First 100 Customers. No BS. They're
No
gonna give
BS.
us the full. So this is Sean Puri. He's one of the co-hosts. He was working with a startup. It used to be called Shepherd. It's now called Somewhere, but he's still referring to it as Shepherd. And this is a little background, about 2-minute clip, how they grew their customer base, how they got started building customers. They help businesses train and staff people overseas.
Great.
What I did was we're gonna refresh that and try it again, everybody. I was like, hey, dude, I'm doing this episode about how you got your first 100 customers. What did you do for Shepherd? And he goes, well, I did a couple of things, but he's like, what I did was he's linked me to the tweet. So he did three or four steps in a row. So tweet one, I'll show this on the screen. He just goes, I'm launching a new business tomorrow. And then did the sign emoji. And then he said, hint, it's an agency. And he had a small Twitter following, about 10,000 followers at the time. Not like a huge mega influencer, but enough. And that post itself has 350 likes. So that post itself probably got a bunch of people being curious, going inbound. And then what he did next, he's like, I'm going to explain it on my newsletter. So he goes to the newsletter and he writes this post and he goes, today I'm launching this new business, but let me tell you a story. And he goes, a few years ago, my business is struggling. Here's why. So he does what I call the personal story tactic, which is instead of pitching the solution that you've made, you pitch the problem that you had. And you tell a personal story where you reveal some information, you do some vulnerability, and hopefully other people resonate with the problem that you had. So he goes, my business was doing good. And he's like, but he's like, I had this business. It was kind of struggling. I was working all the time, but we never really had any profits. I realized I always thought I could solve the problem with growth. And then finally one day I was like, maybe I should try to lower my costs. I didn't really know what to do. So I looked for where could I lower my cost? He goes, I heard about a guy who had hired somebody in the Philippines for less than $1,000 a month. Meanwhile, I was paying somebody $5,000 for the same service. So I did it. I did another one. Here's a picture of me in the Philippines. We went out and met them because I was so amazed at how this worked. He goes, and so then that became my secret weapon. I was hiring overseas. And so now all of a sudden I went from profit margin of 0 to profit margin of whatever, 15%. And that made the difference between the business sucking to the business being good. So I started doing this for a few friends just for fun. Finally decided I'm going to make a business called supportshepherd.com to help you find amazing employees that are 80% less than the US equivalent. he goes, blah, blah, blah. And then he sent me the screenshot. We could show this on the screen. So this newsletter went to 12,000 people. It had an 11% click rate, which is the power of a story versus an ad. And so,
normally an ad would get like a 1 to 3% click rate.
Exactly. So this is 10 times better. Why is it 10 times better? Because again, he kind of opened up the kimono and told.
Yeah, and it's also because it's an email of people who already know him. They've opted in.
Yeah.
So it's really twofold. Also, there's a picture there. The pictures are incredibly convincing. And so storytelling obviously plays a role. I like it. It's a great story. There's a million stories like this that you can look at in our show notes, and we're going to catalog them and somehow publish them. Maybe we'll do it in the This Week in Startups newsletter. How do people sign up for the This Week in Startups newsletter? You go to thisweekinstartups.com or This Week in Startups. .com / email
ticker.thisweekinstartups.com.
So how would anybody know that? Ticker.thisweekinstartups.
How would anybody know that? Because I just told you that's where to go.
Yes, but on the This Week in Startups website.
I mean, if you just go to the front page, perhaps it is called out there.
So let's do a new thing. Let's put a box where.
Yes, you can. There is a button that says Twist Ticker on the This Week in Startup front page.
It could be much more prominent.
It could be more prominent.
We're doing we're doing this in real time. Sign up for the Twist newsletter and explain what we're going to get on that page. Great. So we'll catalog it there, and every day we're improving here as well. So there you go. Some tales from the trenches. We had another one. One of our startups was doing and this is in the presentation we gave last night at Founder University. So somebody could pull up that presentation for me, please. There was a company that was doing gardening AI. So you could share a picture of it. And when you share the picture of your, absolutely sad backyard, the AI will make you some choices based on, where you're located and tell you, here's the plants that would work well in Austin versus New England. They went on to a subreddit where somebody had posted and said, how do the same exact problem, what should I do with my garden here? And the person created a simple landing page and said, I made some mock-ups for you and sent it there. And then the landing page just had, use this tool or try this tool. They got 500 customers from this. I forgot which company it was. But yeah, it's NeighborBright is the name of the company. So if you pull up the NeighborBright slide, please.
I'm on it. Pulling it up right now, Jason.
It's slide 5, and we'll pull it up on the screen here. First-time backyard owner says, hey, I need help with landscaping this hill. My wife and I sold our condo, yada, yada. And so, and that'll come up in a second. And that's the... so here is the Reddit post, and then here's how they replied. They did something very savvy in the replies that's worth pointing out. Predictably Rational, who works at NeighborBright, said, yes, definitely a retaining wall. Here are some ideas with the retaining wall by the fence, which will require leveling out the rest or keeping the slope, but building a terraced garden with a link. And on the next slide, it sent them to a landing page for NeighborBright with these 4 gorgeous images and said, ready to try with your own yard, try it for free. Simple call to action. What you notice here is they put the promotion on the landing page after giving value. So this is key. Whenever you're in a community, the communities, the vibrant ones, are very attuned to people coming in and spamming or marketing the community.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is help participate in the community without spamming. So when we did our Sweet 16 that we're doing for Founder Fridays.
Yes.
And there was somebody who was like spamming the groups like about their product and, hey, get a code. That's not the way to do it. The fact that you made it into the Sweet 16 and you're doing the March Madness thing, that's the promotion is built in already, right?
Yes.
So you don't want to be outwardly promotional, and you give to get. You give value and you get value. The theme song for This Week in Startups we used to do was a fan of the show who's a rapper who just made it and sent it to us. The theme song young Spielberg did for All In, Going All In, he just did it as spec work.
Right.
So in a way, this is kind of like spec work. You just give a little and then you get a whole bunch. There are so many of these micro communities. Facebook's another one.
Yeah.
If you were doing a ranching service, I found no less than 50 ranching groups in
Sure.
Texas. Like there were too many. I was overwhelmed with how many there were because I was going to hire a ranch hand. So I wanted to learn about that. And I joined 4 or 5 of the groups. I was amazed at like the amount of knowledge I accumulated in groups of 50 to 500 people.
You're in ranch country now, yeah.
These were not a million people in them. The smaller, the better.
Yeah.
So many.
I think that's one of the tips that we saw before was embed yourself in these communities authentically. And I think that's what they mean by that term authentically. Don't drive by and be like, hey, come check out my thing. Here's the link. Actually participate and be a valuable part of the community. And then people will be ready to listen to you when you have stuff to promote.
Yeah.
We have to get to office hours, guys. We have people coming in. But before we do that, Jason, I'm so curious. What does a ranch hand cost to hire? I have no idea what the price point is for that kind of human.
It depends on if you are providing lodging or not. If you're providing lodging, so you provide a home, which takes out whatever it would be. Like maybe if you were out on the ranch country, that's like $1,000 to $2,000 in value, probably the home itself. I think ranch hands probably get paid $20 an hour, $25 an hour, maximum. Like that's like a ranch hand, kind of below a handyman. So a handyman in hill country, you know, out in the might get paid.
Ranch hand below handyman.
Yeah, handyman, like I'm going to fix your windows or like your washing machine. They might be $30 or $40 an hour, $50 an hour, like to come once in a while. Full-time ranch hand, $40,000, $50,000 a year. You would have too many applications.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. You get to work outside. You don't need a college degree. You don't need a high school degree. You just need to know how to handle horses, animals, clean barns. It's kind of entry-level work. The sophistication comes if you can teach people how to ride. So I've got a lot of information on this now. But yeah, I would say, you know, if you provide housing, it could be like double minimum wage, like 15, $20 $20 an hour if you provide housing. And you know,
there you go. There's the
now
answer.
everyone knows. Okay, so today for office hours, we are going to start by talking to Jake and Daniel from BRX.ai. I believe it's pronounced Bricks. We'll confirm that in just a second. They are building a tool for developers that allows developers to build model agnostic AI tools quickly. Given how many companies out there today, Law and Jason, want to use AI, it's certainly taking on a very large market. You can check it out at BRX.ai. Please welcome to the show. It's Jake and Daniel.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
Hey. Oh, there he is.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, gentlemen, maybe you could tell the audience a little bit about what you're building, and then maybe you could ask me, you know, what are the challenges right now?
Yeah, of course. I'll take the reins there. So Bricks is an orchestration and a runtime environment to build autonomous software. We combine the expressiveness of LLMs and then the control of precision code of action to enable a really powerful environment to build these production-grade AI systems. But the biggest thing is this enables our users to generate self-healing and autonomous products from this same product.
Okay, great. So who are your customers? Let's kind of drill down a little bit. And do we have any customers yet, or is it we're still building the product?
Yeah, so our main customers, we target software developers for the most part that are working on building agentic operations and agentic processes that are building multiple systems that have the need for like better indexing, which ends up being a problem for a lot of people when it comes to LLMs. The capability to index and then use those same pieces of engineering as composables becomes a big issue.
So give us a real world example if you can.
Yeah, so when it comes to real world examples, we currently have people that are using the platform to build systems across. One of our bigger customers right now is building a system that can take in information about stories and then generate from that same story audio and video files that then cross play to build a whole schema from that. So they're using research that they did to then determine what makes a person kick or what makes a user kick when it comes to some of the models, and then using that same pieces of data inside of the model to then process a story and generate a timeline to rebuild and reconstruct a story.
Okay, still confusing.
Sorry.
Let's try to talk. When the way you said it would be like, what kind of story are we talking about here? Give an actual real world example so the audience actually understands it.
Yeah, so they're working with studios, so developing stories that are going to be like little commercials or little ads or little like transformative pieces that they're going to be running over, and that's where they get most of the value out. And it's about making sure that the story stays consistent across, because the biggest problem even with that, if you try to just make an AI just auto-generate the whole thing, it'll get lost at certain steps, miss the plot line, other things will happen. So it's a lot about the coordination and orchestration of all those little pieces that need to happen, and then letting those all compile back into
So now we're starting to get it. If I was a giant ad agency and I have customer A is a beer company. They have a certain feeling that they like to invoke. It's, a New England beer company versus one in the South, or vice versa. They want to tell stories and they want to get it right. So they want to make sure they're using the right customers. For some people, that might be Dylan, who is the woman from the Bud Light?
Oh, Mulvaney.
That might be Dylan Mulvaney if it was in San Francisco and New York. That might not fly, in New Orleans or in Texas,
Sure.
as we've seen. So they might need to consistently think about how they pitch that product. The LLM might just go off to the races and not understand the context. Am I getting it correct?
100%. Yeah. And the biggest thing that we push on is control and precision in those events. And we've been building around that same idea of when you have a really specific operation or process that you need the LM to do, taking control and taking the reins on those parts, and then leaving off the parts that you need, that like stochastic version that just runs out. You need a little bit of randomness, a fan to go get the data, vice versa. And then coming back to a really controllable system that you've moderated.
Got it. So this is very hard to do if you were using an off the shelf. If you were using Grok, ChatGPT, or Claude, you would have a hard time doing this. So you need, if I'm correct, you need to use something more specific.
I think it's the consistency, right? It's like those they could make 5 different things, but it won't align with all of the other things it's created, I believe.
100%. Yeah.
So what are your customers using in terms of an LLM? Are you giving them DeepSeek and then customizing that, or trying to customize ChatGPT? How does that work, or they get to pick?
Yeah, so we let them pick completely. We keep all the leading foundational models from Google, Gemini, OpenAI, Anthropic, some of the DeepSeek models, as well as the Llama models when they all come out, so that you have that choice and play. The biggest thing, and this is maybe a deeper aspect into the LMs and the architecture, is they all do different things better. So let's say OpenAI currently is leading in some kind of thinking, or Anthropic is better at coding, or Google has a bigger context window. And it's allowing those users when they're building those pipelines, and this is one of the reasons why we say we have more precision. It's at any point in the chain of events, since we built the compiler and the engine, we can allow you to plug and play different pieces of the LMs together.
That's cool.
Got it. Amazing. So what's the challenge here? Where are you at? Yeah.
So I'll tackle this one, Jake. So we've been in development phase for about 6 months. And by development phase, I mean, we've been building a product to really gain an initial wedge in the market. What this product essentially is it's a compiler grade infrastructure, turns any natural language or code request into functional self-healing autonomous systems. So what we're going here is a PLG motion. We're trying to get this into market. And the biggest effect that we're trying to have on people is there's a company that hit the market at the beginning of 2025. I'm sure you're all familiar with Lovable. They've had this tremendous effect with giving this magical feel of AI, with generating UI and UX. This is actually a product that we developed months before they hit the market, and timing just didn't work out. So we reflected backwards and thought about how do we take UI UX generation, take it to the next step. And it's much more than just the front end. It's generating the back end, the AI calls, functional systems, to allow for anybody to drop a project into it. So think of this like an SOP, a workflow, a application that you want to create. And we
so you take a scope of work, or what you want to do.
Correct. And so just drop it right in and let our system take care of the rest. We'll build out your back end, your front end, all EA calls. And it's actually a containerized agent in the fact of it's healing itself, it's monitoring itself, it's set it and forget it. So it's an extremely powerful tool that we're trying to bring to market. And we're trying to have that same effect of getting the magic from AI. But our question is leveraging this to direct audience. So with that PLG push, we're curious if it's got so many applied use cases and so many different aspects of the world can use it, where would you hone in on for this drastic kind of PLG effective motion that we're trying to roll out in the next few months?
Got it. So product-led growth is what you mean by PLG.
Correct.
And some products kind of sell themselves. So Lovable is, it's a really interesting product. You say, hey, I want to build, and I put in there annotated.com, my concept of had bought the domain name annotated.com. And I signed up, I paid for it because you have to pay for it. And I said, build me this thing, a Chrome extension, and it went to work, and the output was a gorgeous web page that looked very similar to like Notion or some other design things. And it told me who it was going to be inspired by for that. And it creates this magical experience, but there's no publish to the web and get it up and running. So what you're talking about is maybe finishing the work that they've started. Am I correct?
Yeah, and I almost wouldn't put it as finishing the work they started. I think it's just giving a much deeper, more robust experience. A lot of people, we talked to one of our advisors about this a while ago. Funny use case. His fund was in algebra in high school, and he used Claude Artifact to generate this little artifact for himself. UI, UX, he played with it in Claude. It was great, but he wanted to share it. He wanted to like bring it to his classmate Johnny. He wanted to publish it on the web, like you're saying. And there was no tool for this. He wasn't a developer. He had no way to then publish this, monitor it, maintain the back end, and have this as a functional application. So this all stemmed from this conversation that we had of how do you take these little artifacts, these little like, I hate to call them trinkets, but trinkets on the web that people can have fun with, and bring them in to have real effect on the world, to build really powerful systems that basically anybody can generate. So I'm a data analyst and I want to bring my SOP and generate an agent to be able to do that. There's currently no system right now where I, as a no code, low code user, can just have that generated and actually work in a production grade environment.
So you are in the Canva zone, which is Canva was a design tool for non-designers. So you have this really challenging moment where it's like, how do I find the vibe coders? How do I find the people who want to design, who don't know they want to design, and they would normally hire a designer, right? This is a challenging moment in time for you to try to figure out. And you did point out like kind of the answer, which is the wow factor of Lovable pulled a bunch of people in, the wow factor of Canva in a bunch of tiny use cases, making an invite probably was the one that was the biggest, right? Like everybody has to make a birthday party invite. So what's the equivalent of mom or dad need to make an invite for grandma's 80th birthday or for their 5-year-old's birthday, but in this realm? And so I don't think there's an easy answer other than iterating and trying. And we just had a segment on finding your first customers to do this kind of thing. I bet you Canva found a bunch of moms and dads who were doing birthday parties and said, here's a way to make a birthday party invite faster, quicker, easier. And if you want to also make banners and birthday cards and other things, you can do that as well. And over time, what I like about what Lovable did, but that there is a critique of, is they're getting everybody to pay for it, but does it actually do something in the real world? Or is it like a toy that people are paying for, which would then make people concerned, Lon and Alex, about the quality of the revenue? Are people just going to go try it, say that was interesting, but I didn't actually get value, I'm going to unsubscribe? And Canva, I think, is worth studying, because Canva, yeah, I'm sure a bunch of people went in there and said, oh, I can make an invite, but I don't actually have that many invites to make. I don't do that many parties. But the people who did make parties, they upsold them on the next thing. The next thing, would you like to make a t-shirt? Would you like to make a mug? And then there's somebody in your friend group, like if you go to your group friend chat, who is the one who coordinates the trip to New Orleans, who makes the t-shirts and then says, everybody's got to wear this t-shirt out when you go to Bourbon Street or whatever. And is that annoying person in the group? And you got to find that person who maybe wants to build the app and send it to their friends, make the Chrome extension and share it in their office. So it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of, I think, figure that out, and you will.
It'll be fail fast.
Yeah, try 100%. A lot of
100%.
things.
Yeah, exactly.
Lots of experiments.
All right, Daniel and Jake, I want to say that I prepped our section in the notes about your company today, and I spent, I think I read every single word on your site twice, and I got what you do wrong. So I say that with nothing but love. And when I go to Lovable's website, we actually had the founder on the show. It's shockingly clear what I can do with it. And so I would just say
that's a great piece of feedback.
Self-healing, autonomous, AI, just all of that makes me want to die inside. And I'm a nerd. So that's my 2 cents. I love you both, but like I did not get all the way there. So if you're going to go PLG, go out into the market. It's got to be dumb. Or at least easy.
I like this advice. And you could make a landing page that's different than your corporate page. So the landing page could be buildmyapp.com or, vibe code an app, and you just try that as an experiment, and you make vibe code an app, and it says, what would you like to make? A meditation app, a chat app for me and my friends, an app for my family, a private app for photo sharing for my family, and you give the top 10 app concepts, and you just let people go to work on that, right?
Yeah.
And
Here's their homepage that Alex was
Yeah.
talking about. That's a little,
Yeah.
a little tricky to figure out exactly what it does.
So
Yeah.
this I think is the key thing here. AI agent builder, but we should take that and make it into this, which is the Lovable website. If you're not watching the video version, this is just a side by side of the two.
Yeah. And you can
Jason, I think
experiment.
that was, I was gonna say, I think that was a great idea with the separate landing page. And it actually goes along with something we did not too long ago. We scooped up the domain myagent.ai. So I think branding everything underneath that and allowing for people to just build my agent and build their projects might be a really strong lever.
So when you say my agent, that would mean to me more enterprisey, just so you know, because I don't think consumers are going to build agents, to do these tasks. But I do know enterprises want to build them. So I might very much want to build an agent that goes out, listens to the top 10 podcasts or goes to the top 100 podcasts and pulls the advertisers from them and puts that advertiser into my CRM. That's what I think of when you say an agent. What is somebody, what is my Athena assistant doing that the Athena assistant could make into an agent and do, which is totally viable. And that would feel more like Zapier and be for more of a workflow nerd. I have a couple of those workflow nerds in our company, Lucas, Bianca. I got a whole group of them who like to make like workflows using Zapier and Notion and Coda and Slack, and they're going wild on this stuff. Like, it's really cool. People apply for funding from us. They take the application and they write an AI summary and they read the deck and they, talk about what's in the deck, like, so that when we start reviewing them, we're starting with an AI summary, just like I do in Superhuman. So I would think about, there's apps, there's websites, there's agents. These are actually different things. So maybe why don't we try to come up with 3 great domain names and run 3 experiments, and once every 3 months we release one of these and see what the reaction is, or once a month we release them and see which one gets the most interest.
Yeah, I think that'd be really interesting.
Chrome extensions are another very interesting world. I don't know if AI can make great Chrome extensions and publish them, but if you mastered that loop, man, there's a whole extension culture that is, I would say billions of dollars of revenue, billions of users who are on their desktops using browsers, and they want a Chrome extension that, does what SDR, sales development reps do, or pulls, like I was talking about, like doing lead gen, right? That always comes up as like a manual crummy task. Yeah. I need to find all of the journalists who cover Chrome extensions, right? Or who cover apps. Okay, I'm going to start doing Google searches. I want to have the Chrome extension. I want to catalog all that and then be able to do outreach to them. I think you get the idea. So many different opportunities for you, but Alex, I think, gets the win here for closing the loop between your customers and your presentation to them. Let's create a honeypot for those customers, right? And like really sticky, delicious honey. Like go with like, what is the most insane thing, you can promise them and deliver on in the most narrow focus that it becomes number 1 on Product Hunt. And if you want to post it on Product Hunt, I'm like one of the top 10 users apparently. And so I don't do this for just anybody, but since you're a portfolio company, just email my team, Jackie, Kelly, whoever you're working with, and we will, if you make something really good, I'll hunt it for you. And let's see
That'd
if
be awesome.
We can hunt something. Okay, here we go. All
Cool.
right, good job,
Sounds
boys.
good.
Where are you guys
Thank you,
based?
guys. We're in San Francisco. We actually,
Okay.
we just moved out here about 5 months ago now. Originally, we're building in Chicago. So
Yeah. Tell the audience what the difference has been in terms of, getting interest for your company. Obviously, it can be very stark going from Chicago to the Bay Area.
It was as stark as could possibly be. The second we got out here, even 3 weeks in, we've been demoing some of the like deeper tech we have at like different conferences and different events. Because San Francisco, every single day and every single week, there is like 15 different AI events going on. And just bouncing between all those the first 2 weeks here, we were even able to get in front of, do you know who Robert Scobell is?
Robert Scoble.
Yeah, so Robert, I say Scobell, maybe that's wrong. Scoble.
That's all right.
I did an
Scoble,
interview
yeah.
with
I've known
sorry,
Robert
Scoble,
forever.
I think we all, we know Robert.
We know Robert really well.
I'll tell an amazing story because he's an amazing guy. I didn't know who he was at the time. A little bit of our generation kind of missed, I think, some of that stuff. But I went up to him, just talking to him because he was walking around at one of these things that was going, and I showed him a piece of our technology on my phone. He said, "Wait, hold on a second." Had a pair of Apple Vision Pros on, pulled them down, and said, "I'm interviewing you right now."
Yeah, that's Robert Scoble.
Yeah.
You got Scobelized.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what he said.
Yeah. He's been known for carrying a camera, and he, on a scale of like 1 to, I'm trying to think of the most enthusiastic person in pop culture.
I'm just going to pull up the Google Glass photo.
The Google. This could be triggering for some people. But Robert Scoble, on a scale of 1 to, what's the most enthusiastic character in a TV show, movie, ever?
Oh, let's see.
Like cheerleader.
Elle from Legally Blonde. Elle Woods.
Okay, fine. Yes. I don't know that. I've never seen it. But on a scale of 1 to Elle from, on a scale of 1 to, God, that is, I'm scarred for life.
Iconic. That's an iconic tech photo.
This was I knew that Google Glass would fail once I saw this. This never has a brand experienced more damage. The lawsuit.
It really was.
Sergey should have sued Scoble, but that was Google Glass, which is before your time, boys.
That's over that's a 12-year-old photo.
Don't say that. That was 3 years ago.
All right, boys, let me know when you gentlemen are in Texas. We're going to do Tuesdays in Texas for our portfolio companies. If you do this and it gets some traction, then I'll invite you to come down here, hang out with us in the studio, get some barbecue.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to bring together, you tell me, boys, if this would be interesting. If we had 5 companies in your same stage, and then maybe 5 companies that were a little bit ahead of you, and we did like a one-day retreat, you have breakfast, you introduce each other, we have a nice little barbecue lunch, and then you kind of co-work and talk about your biggest challenges. Might that be interesting to you to come to Austin?
That'd be huge. I just recommended to Bianca the other day that we need to get all of the portfolio companies together. So every year, getting everybody together for one retreat would be huge.
Yeah, the one retreat thing is 400 plus companies, so it might work. That could be chaotic.
Wow.
I'm thinking 5 people, who are pre-revenue, 5 people who are just in their first under $1 million, but between 100,000 and $1 million. So you can see like the people who are just ahead of you, and kind of vibe that way. But we'll figure it out.
We'll do some Terry Blacks or something.
Do a little Terry Blacks, maybe take you out to the Salt Lake. Okay, Daniel. Okay, Jake. Good job, and have a great weekend. And we'll see you.
Appreciate y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Great.
Thanks,
great
guys.
job. I feel like we did some good work there.
All right, now we are not done talking to people in office hours. So next up, we are going to talk to Brian Watson from InviteJet. InviteJet is building calendar marketing tools, not marketing calendar tools, flip it around, essentially allowing brands and companies to place ads and marketing material inside of prospect calendars. You can find out more at invitejet.com. Brian, welcome to the show.
Man, I love this idea. This idea seems, as Brian will tell us, perhaps a little aggressive, right? Like, oh my God, you're going to put something on my calendar.
Yeah.
But, Lon, which movie studio, or director or content network do you have the most affinity for, would you say?
Oh, I mean, like a great example would be like Warner Brothers and Christopher Nolan. Like there are huge Christopher Nolan fans. He's making
but for you.
Oh, for me personally?
Yes.
I mean, I love the Coen brothers.
Perfect. Let's stop right there. Now, for you, Alex, I know you like heavy metal.
I do.
Tell me the top. Is there a heavy metal newsletter of some type?
There must be.
Is there a heavy metal magazine that you subscribe to, or a website you go to, or a website that has a heavy metal section or a subreddit you go to?
The first thing that comes to mind is Lamb Goat. Publication.
A publication. Okay, I love lamb, and I get the goat curry sometimes. Those are the 2 things I like. I'm Greek, and I do like Indian food.
This is probably more like Black Mass, like you're going to sacrifice the goat to your dark lord.
This is why you shouldn't talk about heavy metal in public.
I'm going to pitch. I'm pitching Brian's company, InviteJet. The Coen brothers. And their movie studio, Coen Production.
Oh, they work for A24 a lot these days.
A24 is releasing a new email newsletter. And in it, they're going to talk to their top directors every week. And as part of that, they're going to have limited flash sales on experiences, merchandise, and live podcasts
Yeah.
with their directors.
A24 should genuinely do this.
Might you be interested in signing up for that?
I absolutely would.
If once every 2 weeks, up to 25 times a year, we put in an invite into your calendar to see specific things that the Cohen brothers endorse and or are doing, would you be okay with that?
Naturally.
Okay. Alex,
Yes.
as a subscriber to Mutton Chop
Lamb goat.
would you be interested in, we have 3 days a week, some AMAs, or twice a week, we have AMAs or editors' top reviews. We do them live. Sometimes we'll have a flash sale for tickets and merch. Would you be interested in us putting that on your calendar? There are 15-minute increments, and it's just an invite. You could say yes, no, and it comes on off, and you can unsubscribe at any time. Might you be interested in signing up for that?
Yeah, my work calendar needs more things on it, so I'm totally game.
Okay. Now, I'll ask you guys, is it okay if I put Lululemon on your calendar when they have flash sales?
I would prefer not.
Exactly. Everybody has their meat puppet stick,
Right.
or their Cohen brothers or their Lululemon. If you use InviteJet, you can do this at scale, programmatically, and with very low cost. Please welcome Brian Watson to the program.
Hello, hello. Thanks
How
for
was
having
my
me.
pitch? How was my pitch?
That was great. Thanks for the use cases. I really appreciate it.
The reason I bring that up is I am, after doing this for, 14 years, I am always amazed at how poorly founders construct use cases. And the people who don't who don't build your product can describe use cases so much better than the average founder.
Absolutely.
And it's the elephant wall problem. When you're standing next to an elephant and you open your eyes, you see a gray wall.
Right.
If you step back, you see the elephant. Founders just too close to the problem. So how's the business going? You went through the accelerator, and I know you got some very interesting feedback. What was the feedback in the accelerator? We introduced you to dozens of investors, and you've met probably or been exposed to hundreds during the program. What was the feedback? Did they get it? Did you present it well in the beginning? Did you get better at presenting it? I know it's a polarizing concept sometimes.
Absolutely.
For some people.
Yeah, definitely polarizing. Absolutely. It was for me too when it was first presented to me as an idea, as the technical co-founder. I came into it with a little bit of like ick, but that very quickly went away. But yeah, the accelerator was great. We were in LA 33. We pitched to hundreds of investors, and we had one-on-one meetings with I think my list is 136 meetings now. Yeah, so it's been a journey. But yeah, the accelerator was wonderful for the exposure, the intros. Your team was wonderful. They were, there were moments of surprise and delight for sure.
I like that. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm trying to increase those. I try to get back to in person. You didn't do much in person, right? You went to see Sequoia.
No. Yep.
That was great.
That was amazing. Yep.
What do we? And then do we have a kickoff for the accelerator?
No, we had the one in-person event. We spent a week in SF. That was a great time. But yeah, we got to go out to Sequoia and pitch them, and get some really good feedback. Roll-off was a great sport that day.
Yeah,
I was very interested in the calendar invite. Angle.
So if we did more in person, you'd be into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be on a plane in a heartbeat.
I love it. Okay, good to know. I'm talking to my team about doing more in-person stuff. What's your challenge right now, Brian? Any challenges with the business or things you're frustrated with or trying to get done?
We just had a lead back out of a term sheet, which is a unique challenge in of itself.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, so there's that's going on right now. That's like the hair on fire problem that we're trying to solve right now. Where do we pick up the pieces and go from here? We've luckily had a really positive spin of things, re-engaging firms that were already interested, before the term sheet was signed.
So you had a signed term sheet.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. You signed it, you went to due diligence, and then they gave you a reason for, backing out. Sometimes, I'll be honest, they will tell you a reason that's not the truth.
Yeah, that's that's the advice I've been getting a lot lately too. Is that's probably not true.
And I don't want to mention the firm here. I don't want to.
No, absolutely not.
But I do think this is very brave of you to talk about, because I've been in the situation myself with my own companies and had somebody back out. A lot of times people will make an investment and then maybe they don't have the credibility in their firm to get it through the other partners, because there's some partnership dynamic going on. So if Alex, Lon, and I were partners in a VC firm, Lon's last 2 deals didn't work out. Alex is pissed off at Lon. Lon comes to us with a 3rd deal. We're like, hey, this is the same movie over and over again. You want to do consumer packaged goods. We know it doesn't work. And then Lon kind of was a hot shot and sent the term sheet before we approved it. And we have a rule, 2 out of 3. He can't get consensus. That happens. It could be
just not a team player.
Well, things can happen. Or, you know, they could see something like a lawsuit, which isn't the case here, but there could be a legal action. And they think, oh, you didn't tell us about that. Or your accounting could have been off, which wasn't the case here. I think it was for you, the customers in your pipeline and the customer references were good, but maybe not. They had some maybe higher benchmarks they were looking to see in this, what I'll call your company as a nascent company. You're a year 1 or 2 company, yeah?
Yeah, 6 months in. Yeah.
6 months in.
But, you know, we've been on average growing 50% month over month.
Great.
And so, you know, things are going gangbusters. And so it was a little bit offsetting, a little bit off-putting, but, you know, we're putting the pieces back together. It's totally fine. I mean, you only get hurt on a roller coaster if you get off in the middle, right?
Yeah, I like that. That's actually very true. Yeah, keep the seatbelt on. Yeah. What I'll also say is, did you diligence this firm before you went into it? Did you talk to other founders? You can be totally honest about this, because not everybody has the time. Did you talk to 2 other founders who accepted money from them?
Absolutely. So it was our intention to. However, you know, when we asked, you know how wires get crossed and sometimes things get left out, you know. So I assume that's what happened. I don't think that they were intentionally dodging us or anything like that. But, you know, we asked for a couple of founders that we could talk to, but we were never given those actual references that we could go talk to. So, you know, it's not like we were pounding on the door asking for those things, though. So we did ask once and, you know, it was not delivered.
So that could be the reason this happened, is you asked for references. Maybe they don't have great references. This is why I love the backdoor reference. What's a backdoor reference? That's when you, or a dark reference, you go find the references and you go do it yourself, right? You don't have to take their references. And here's, if you want to get really, you know, dark arts. I have some dark arts. These things exist between the light and the dark side. It's a little Ashoka kind of situation. You know, you could look at their list of investments on Crunchbase.
Yeah, right.
Which they can't take things on and off of Crunchbase that easily, or another service. There's other ones out there, or you can look at press, TechCrunch stories, whatever, of funding announcements. Then you look at their profile page of their portfolio, and then you look for which ones are not on
showing
there.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are two founders in the history of our firm that I did not see eye to eye with. I'll make an amalgamation here. I felt like there were things occurring that were not on the up and up, to be graceful about it. I'm not going to say like, but these were pretty gnarly situations where I had to say to the founder, in one case, this isn't a fit. How about you give us our money back? We rip up the term sheet. The founder immediately folded and gave us our money back, and we ripped up the term sheet. In another case, I had to threaten to sue a founder because they did things that I thought could get our firm, other investors, other employees, board members, et cetera, into legal trouble. I spent $90,000 on legal bills and said, hey, if you don't give us our money back and, you know, we resolve this, then I'm going to file this lawsuit in Delaware. I never thought I would ever have to say that, but, you know, in that case, I felt like this was securities fraud that was occurring. I didn't want anything to do with it. In that case, they folded as well. You're not going to find those 2 people on our profile pages.
Sure.
You might find them in Crunchbase. I don't know. Somebody might be doing that right now.
Yeah.
You know, and trying to figure that out. So that's like a dark arts thing. And you know what? Not all VCs and founders are going to get along. Newsflash. People who are capital allocators, unique group of people in the world, often former founders. Founders, very unique people in the world. You put them 2 together, they're not always going to get along.
Sure.
directors and writers and actors also, Lon, in Hollywood, your previous gig, like they might also not get along.
Yeah, sure.
Often.
So yeah, I small tangent for just a sec, but yeah, we've done the
tangents are the best parts.
this one's hilarious. There's a long story to it, but the long and the short is basically there was one investor who offered to invest in us. I met him through Telegram. I used to work in crypto, so I know a lot of people in crypto. And so he offered to invest in us, asked us to come to Amsterdam to meet him because he doesn't do business without a handshake deal first, seeing you face to face. And then, so I went back door and started looking this guy up. Looked like he was a great guy. Looked like he was investing through family offices and things like that. However, it turned out the man I was talking to on a Zoom meeting was actually not who he said he was. He was using some sort of AI filter to filter his face and pretend to be this person.
Wow.
And try to get me to come to Amsterdam. So always do your research. That's the moral.
What was
of
the
this
plan in
story.
Amsterdam? Like kidnapping you and throwing you in a canal?
Yeah, they were going to do
was
a
very
ticket.
pushy about it. Yeah.
Following your instinct is a good idea.
You don't want to get taken.
If you get that tingly feeling,
right.
it's
Glad you still have both kidneys.
if anybody in Amsterdam offers to take you out on their like homemade submarine, don't do it.
You're about to get taken. Don't get taken.
So true. So true.
No, there was like this crazy story in Amsterdam. This like lunatic guy and this
I remember.
journalist was going to do a story on him, and
she
disappeared.
Yeah.
Like they think he basically murdered her.
Yeah, I read about that. That
unalived her.
Yikes.
Yikes.
I
what
do
else
have
is
other
going on in the
things.
business?
Yeah,
Give me
sure.
some other
Plenty
things.
of other things to talk about. But so like I said, things have been going pretty gangbusters. We've got there has been a little bit of churn. It's not anything to like, turn your nose up at or anything like that. 3 to 5%, pretty standard stuff. But
that's monthly, every month.
Yes. Yeah. And so I engage these people that churn, and I always ask them, I'm product obsessed. So I want their experience to be great. They say, hey, so it's a great product. Obviously it works, or we wouldn't have used it. It's really churned up revenue for us, which is great. But we don't see ourselves using it every single month. And so that's why we churned this month, is because we don't see ourselves paying the $500 a month subscription or $150 a month subscription for this month. And so we churned this month, but we may be back in 3 months. So we've started thinking of ways to, we've got an idea of a way to combat that, but I'd love to hear your opinion.
So this is what happens with experimental software often.
Yeah.
And so, investors look at the churn rate, you'll look at it. When something comes out like MailChimp, right? When it first came out, I got to do a mailing. I've got this mailing list. I have to send some emails. People would sign up for the trial, send the email, shut the account down. And I had this issue too with like where you're looking at the SaaS software and going, why is it so expensive? And I don't get enough utilization out of it. And I loved MailChimp for a long time. They were advertisers here on the program for many years, but they changed their pricing model. And the pricing model was based on how many emails we had. And I tried to explain this to them over and over again after they got sold. We have 500,000 emails because we do these events, but we email people twice a year. You're charging us as if we're, and it's like unlimited sending. So we're getting charged with this model of, unlimited sending, but we don't need unlimited sending, but you're charging us like not $1 a year, like 10 cents a year per user. So you want $50,000 a year. Many of these emails are dead. So now I got to clean the emails off the list, or I have to take these 5 mailing lists for these events, take them down, then re-upload them, lose the records. And they're like, you're not our typical customer, Justin. Right. We're working with the Gap. The Gap sending an email, 7 times a day. So, I think it really has to do with the ideal customer profile. For $6,000, most people are not going to care. If you're a professional marketer, they're going to just care, does that $6,000 result in more than $6,000 in income coming in?
Yeah, right.
So I think you have to look at the category of customer. If I described a publication like the meat puppet, I'm joking, but the goat meat, whatever it is.
Lamb goat.
Lamb goat might be on a budget. they may not, they may be very budget conscious. So you would say to them, go, listen, we know you're a publication. We know it's not a huge business. How about we give it to you for this rate, $500 a year. And then if you have customers like, this record company, Warner Records, will sell into Warner Records alongside you to do their stuff. See, I think you have to parse who the customers are and the feedback you're getting. As an event producer, I was just not a good customer for MailChimp. They wanted big marketing agencies, people who are monetizing, these mailing lists and using them regularly. I moved everything to Substack. I'm a terrible customer for Substack because I don't have subscriptions turned on, so there's no 10% of the revenue.
Yeah, they don't.
Using them as a free mail service.
They're not interested in that.
But they're like, okay, it's good for them because they want to build the records in their system and they're playing a flat rate. So I want to ask you, who are as you're 6 months into this journey, who do you think your ideal customer profile is?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. So I'll say this, the top of the mountain for us looks like InviteJet is the Twilio or SendGrid of calendar invites, right?
Got it.
And so those businesses, when I look at those businesses, they are both marketing as well as transactional, right? SendGrid hit it big with the transactional side of things. And so we're thinking about that transactional side as well as marketing. So we've actually taken steps. We're actually this weekend, we're doing a soft launch of our third-party API and Zapier integration so that people can, automate these calendar invites into their flow. So you can think of like a restaurant reservation system using calendar invites. Essentially,
that's powerful. So if this French restaurant is doing cassoulet Sundays, they could.
Who doesn't love cassoulet Sundays?
I would go for
me
cassoulet.
too. Yeah, exactly. Don't even know what that is, but let's
Salt
do
Lick
it.
does prime rib on Sunday.
It's like a French stew. You got some beans in there.
Incredible.
You got like duck maybe or rabbit.
I grew up in the Midwest and I live in the South. So when you said prime rib, I knew exactly what you were talking about.
Prime rib Sundays. I totally get it. So that's great.
So, so the ideal customer profile right now has been an e-commerce brand, right? 6 to 9 figures, analytics savvy. They want to use it for the marketing use case, right?
Yes.
Which has been great. And so for them, it makes sense to have this pay as you play, sort of get an allocation of invites to send every month. You're basically buying an allowance of invites.
Yeah.
However,
consumption based. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, however, if we shift this model a little bit to include the transactional side of things, I think it helps with those folks that churned from the e-commerce side of things if we go to more of a usage-based pricing in terms of like do a low platform fee so that we do have MRR, but also do a usage-based fee. Is it $2 per 1,000 invites you send or whatever it may be, so that people can justify the $99 or the $300 platform fee that they're spending every month. And then they, can spend more on top of that if they're actually using the service, which we've seen up into the right numbers in terms of our monthly active users each month
at
and
this
how
stage,
much they're using it.
At this stage, I think charging a fee that is robust enough for you to keep growing and investing in the product cycle and keep building these adjacencies and features and the speed and reliability of the service, while giving them so much value that they think you're stupid. So this is the line, right? So like I would look at something like Beehive is so inexpensive for us that I'm like, Beehive is a great deal. Squarespace is an incredible deal. I can't believe I'm paying hundreds of dollars a year to get that much value when I would think I should be paying hundreds a month. Like for Squarespace, it's beautiful. It's got all these features. If you told me it was $500 a month or $500 a year, I'd be like, I would pay either. So that's why I become loyal to them. Something like Notion, Coda, and Slack at $8 to $15 per person per year per month. I don't even think about that price. Like it's so low, 8, 15, or 30 is so low. I'm not even really considering it because I get so much value. And that's the Tim O'Reilly give so much more that people don't even think about it. And I wouldn't over-index on, you seem to be so thoughtful that you might be, respectfully, Brian, over-indexing on the cheap people.
Yeah.
if a third of your customers are not saying it's too expensive, then you're charging too little. So both of these things can be true that we're talking about here in terms of pricing. What I would be more interested in is what's the next adjacency, a bold adjacency you can add to this that, really makes it impossible not to use this tool. So I am a fan of Kith, Kith, which makes, does drops for Knicks gear sometimes. They do New Balance. It's a really incredible designer. I'm sure you've heard of them.
Sure.
And I would just pay, I told them, just charge me $100 or $500 a year to be part of a VIP program. And I kind of rolled my own VIP with them through DMs. But I was like, just let me pay you $100 a year. You put the drops for VIPs a day, 2 days before the regular drop. Let us buy what we want.
Yeah.
And then you would have a subscription fee. So I was wondering, have you thought about charging to be part of a VIP program to get the calendar invites? In other words, making it a revenue stream.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting idea. That is exactly how some people have used the product. So we've got plenty of e-commerce brands that have these sort of VIP lists, if you will. And we integrate with.
Do the VIP members pay though to be part of that?
I assume they do. I'm not entirely sure what their business model is.
Cuts has the Cuts clothing company that makes like black t-shirts I like. Yeah. They Cuts has and I think maybe Roan is the other one I like that makes black t-shirts. Both of them I think have a $100 a year program where you get 20% off each order. So when you hit $500, it pays for itself and you get free shipping. It's kind of like their own Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
I think like helping people build that. I also like your affiliate link idea and integrating with the affiliate systems. That's a big business. We have an investment in a company called Genius Link that produces like those smart links that if somebody clicks on it in France, it goes to the right place to buy a piece of clothing in France. If they click it in Canada, it sends them to the right place, all by IP, right? Yep. And then people can use those to make affiliates. I like affiliates. I like the idea of you maybe adding Klaviyo-like email features. I wonder if some of your customers can't afford Klaviyo, and Klaviyo's margin is your opportunity to like make a freer version of some of the Klaviyo features. I don't know how they charge per record or HubSpot. So, that's the other possibility with the business. I think when investors hear about your business, they're kind of like, oh, icky.
Yeah.
Oh no, genius.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Oh, what can we add to it? So
it literally happens every time. Yeah.
It's like this very interesting journey that I went through as well. And it was interesting, even in our own venture firm, people were like, I don't want that.
Yeah,
I don't want to be marketed to on my calendar. And it's, if you switch it to membership, like I did in our discussion, it changes everybody's
I think the transactional side of things does that as well. So you could think like if I'm making a booking appointment at a nail salon or a tattoo parlor or a restaurant reservation or a flight or a hotel, that stuff should be on my calendar, right? But it's not right now. We're just getting email and SMS reminders of those things. And so, you can think of those highly personal transactions where you're making a booking, that should be on my calendar, and I would totally 1,000% welcome that, right? And so we know that's a big business, and that's something that we want to go after.
High-end restaurants doing high-end products. They're what's the famous Chicago restaurant? Nick Kokostas. He's the guy from Alina.
Okay. Oh, yeah. There's Alinea. Is that what it is?
Gosh, I'm sorry. My dyslexia is going crazy here.
Yeah, Alinea is the very high end. It's like Michelin star.
He was on the program and he had a service he sold to Squarespace, but they sold it like tickets. So when you bought it, you paid for your dinner 3 months out.
Yeah.
And you reserve your spot at Alina. And it was a really great idea and great business. I think, there's a great restaurant here, Emmer and Rye. They're always sold out. Like the ability to maybe send you a calendar invite that said, we had an opening for a two-top. Would you like it? Yeah. That's kind of interesting. Or those special moments, like we're doing something special for our customers on Sunday with cassoulet. There's 50 available. Would you like to come? Hit yes. And then handle the Resi reservation, et cetera. So many great ideas. The API is going to be a great long-term thing for you to do. Yeah. I'm in love with your business. How can people find out more and become a customer or try the product?
They can go to invitejet.com. And if you want to contact me. I'm Brian at InviteJet.com. My co-founder Paul at InviteJet.com. We are, very, very open and personable. So give us a
can we
shout
run
anytime.
a test to my Founder University team? Let's get all the Founder University emails.
Okay.
Let's ask them if they want to be invited to sessions like this, like office hour sessions.
Oh yeah.
And
it's a great idea.
We'll test like just sending an office hour session to them and putting it on their calendar, for content. It could be interesting, like for our portfolio, et cetera.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if you want to come, it's optional. Do people do it with their mailing list without asking for permission first? Like if I had like 400 founders and I invited them to something, I don't think they would get upset.
No, yeah, it depends. Like we have a bunch of spam blocks in place, right? We've got stuff in place so that if you're using it for a B2B purpose and you're just booking time on people's calendars, we're going to stop you from that. But we do have, but if it's an intimate list, like the one you were talking about, we've actually got a fund here in town, Triangle Tweener Fund, Scott Wingo, shout out, CEO of Spiffy. He uses it for his fund to send events and get, round up all these CEOs for events and investors and LPs in his fund for these events. And he says, it's a amazing tool because it ends up right on their calendar. I don't have to send them an email with a button that says add to calendar, and then they have to, go
So
through
he
this
doesn't
flow.
mind doing it.
Oh, no,
and then people say yes or no, and then somebody on his team
Yeah.
looks at that or looks at your
Yeah.
back end and understands, where
He said
people
the
are.
uptick in attendance has been great because of
Awesome.
because of the use.
I'm all in. In fact, we could do it also for This Week in Startups. We could send people, what's on the docket for that day. So for the real super fans, we could send them the docket for the day and the live link, or we could do Zooms with people. All right, listen, continued success.
Yeah.
I hope did you go to Founder University, or I know you went to
Just the accelerator.
Just the accelerator. Awesome. So we've made one bet so far. Awesome. Keep the growth going. Sales solves everything. So you get that chart that's growing, but 10% a month, you will be fundable indefinitely in your entrepreneurial career. You get between 10 and 20% month over month growth, you'll be fine. You got the 3, 4, 5% churn, that's normal. And so if you could just grow the number, the revenue number,
I mean,
10% month over month,
it's
you'll be in
lumpy
great
right
shape.
now, but 50% is our number right now. And yeah, we hope to keep it there.
It will be
great.
less lumpy when it's bigger numbers,
Yes,
and
yeah.
you figure out your pricing.
For sure.
Great job. All right, everybody. This has been another incredible episode of This Week in Startups. For Lon Harris, for Alex Wilhelm, I'm Jason Calacanis. You can follow the docket, thisweekinstartups.com/docket, and we will see you all next time on Monday. Bye-bye. All right, great job, everybody.
There we
I
go.
think we're clear. That was a long show.
Yeah, almost 2 hours, but we had 2 office hours.
I mean, yeah, the office hours, like they can just go.
Yeah.
Still streaming, by the way. Yes. Okay. And we can stop the stream at any
There you
time.
go. Bye, guys. Thanks
everybody.
for joining us.
It's just that ports on the other, like Alex.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah. So,
all right.
oh, you're not an admin on that?
Right.
Just make yourself always an admin. And you should always be recording on your site. See the record button, so you have an extra backup. But yeah, this is great. Well, you can always, if we leave, then our microphones are off and we're not on it, right? So we leave the stream now, we're good?